episode to the struggling hunters. I should say welcome to the hunting shack. Thank you for participating in episode 124. This one, give you a little heads up first. We're going to mostly be talking about our hunt that we had this last weekend. And for those of you that don't know who the struggling hunters are, I guess for one, we're us two. It's made of. So you have Eric over here.
Hey guys.
And you have me. What's my name?
Joe.
Yeah, that's my name.
This is Joe.
I'm Joe. But we're just two guys trying to become better hunters. It's taken us some time. So the name pretty much gives away the type of hunters we are. We're trying to improve that. And we're slowly getting better. And but I think that's what this episode we're going to talk about. Like I said, our hunting and what we've kind of learned and picked up on, what we could do better. This is probably the best part because we can sit down and be armchair quarterbacks.
On ourselves.
Yep. Because we can say what we did wrong, and if we would have did the things different, we would have been successful.
Possibly.
So I guess where should we get started?
Well, I guess we could talk about our first day and kind of just start rolling it down and
yeah. When was our first day? I know it was a Friday.
Well, we took right off from camp and we went down into the
draw, clear down to that reservoir.
Yep.
Yeah.
The funny thing about that, I will say, is I sort of feel like the way we went, we chose the hardest route down, and then as we got to know the area, we're like, oh, right here's a little easier. like we, because we went all the way down into that where that lake was.
Yeah.
And our way of getting over there was quite the haul, put it that way. And then like the next time we were down there, it was kind of funny how close we were to an actual trail that would get us down there. But I will say we intentionally kind of made it hard that first day because we were down in the thick of things. We were trying to see what we could come up with, try to be where other people weren't.
Yeah.
We did run into two other guys.
Yeah.
Same party. And there was a lot of footsteps on the trail.
Right.
So we just tried to get down in this stuff and kind of get away where we were hoping that we'd run into elk.
Right. Yeah. And we did. First day we did. We at least had one. Well, I know you didn't see it, but I saw it.
That bull elk.
The bull elk. That yeah. So we hiked clear down to this like little reservoir, and then we turned around and started coming back up, and we started going through this. What I guess we can kind of say is what we learned. We started going through the timber, and it seems like there's more elk activity in the timber than there is in like the Quakies.
Aspens, yeah. Quakies.
Yeah. And we're cruising along, and I shouldn't say cruising. We were in between kind of slow walking and being quiet and being a little bit not quiet, if that makes any sense. So, we were kind of single file going through. For whatever reason, I was in the lead at this time, and there's how to describe it. There was like a log that was the way that it had fallen was still part of it was like still hanging up in the air, and we had to walk around that to keep going. And I just cleared like this log, and I turned and looked not down trail, but towards the direction we wanted to go. And just then, like, all I could see was like this brown spot in the woods. Like, I had to like look through branches, and I quickly was getting Eric to stop. But like, no sooner did I try to get Eric to stop thing turn around and start to run. And as it turned, I could see antlers and elk fur, and it was gone. So like he was, and it wasn't like we were. I wouldn't say noisy, but we weren't quiet. But I didn't think we were really that noisy to make an elk go on high alert.
Well, we were close to him. I think he just spotted us, or maybe even got our scent real quick, and as soon as he hit our scent, he just left. I mean, we've seen that before, where somebody elk catches our scent, doesn't have to see us at all, and just takes off, doesn't mess around at all. So that might have been what happened. He could have saw us too, because when you spotted him, like you said, you were trying to get my attention to stop. I didn't see him, so I was kind of still moving. So it could have been my movement
or it could have been my movement too, trying to get him to stop. But he already had his head down, like, more or less. We were already pinned down where we were.
Right.
That I could see, but we were. So the other thing is, we weren't too awfully far from where we came down. So I guess what I'm getting at is those other hunters weren't too awfully far from where he was.
Yeah, it just makes you wonder. I mean, I know the elk were in that spot. I know that they were in there, but kind of something that you kept saying and made me wonder the same thing. Are they just a few in there? They're not quite herded up and more vulnerable that way by having more of a bigger herd with them, because we saw plenty of tracks in the area that we were hunting, but we never did see that many elk.
Right. Well, we only saw two. I saw two. You saw one.
I saw one, yeah. Yeah, so we did a lot of walking that day. And that's something that like you were kind of alluding to, and that's something that we probably need to work on, is at the end of the day where we wanted to be. Because 2 days later, we were like, okay, let's go back down there. And we pretty much did the same trail, but we kind of stayed more on the trail, and then we dove down into the dark timber. But we got to looking at the map, and we're like, man, we should have went down. We should have just drove our truck down to this bottom and walked in. It would have been so much faster. Could have got there earlier. Maybe had more of a chance.
Right. But the other thing though too is when we've driven, every time we've driven past that, like if you will, a trailhead, there's already 3 or 4 trucks there. Yeah.
Well, because the day before we kind of did go down there. We went the other side, but we did go down there, and there was quite a few trucks down there already. So yeah, Joe's got a point. I feel like what it comes down to is in a way we were kind of damned if we did and damned if we didn't.
Yeah.
And it was a tough hunt. I've actually talked to a few other guys that were up there, and they all were like, yeah, got skunked. And
oh really?
Yeah. So where we were camped, we were kind of camped by the main road, and I never saw. I mean,
there's no one went by with the truck
full of antler.
Yeah.
So I think for whatever reason they were, the elk were won.
Yeah, that weekend.
Yeah. So we only heard one gunshot actually.
Yeah, that's true.
So we were archery hunting, but last weekend was opening day of muzzleloader, and we only heard one shot. On the muzzleloader, and it was kind of a there was parts of it that I think got in our heads a little bit, and the only thing I kept reiterating to you, and like I just felt like, hey, we shouldn't beat ourselves up that we're not seeing a lot. I don't know if anybody's seeing a lot. We're putting in a lot of hard work. I felt like we worked really hard. We probably worked a couple guys that worked harder than anybody else on the mountain. So, I mean, I don't know. That's probably a loaded statement, but you know, I mean, I know we worked hard though. Like
Right.
it definitely wasn't from slacking.
Right.
So put in a lot of miles, a lot of hard miles, and tried to get down in the thick of it, and north facing slopes. Did the whole thing, and just didn't really come up with much. But the elk weren't really bugling. I feel like that Thursday night, whenever we set up camp and stuff, I thought I heard a bugle. I don't know if I did or didn't. I don't know if you remember that because I yelled over at you. I'm like, Joe, did you hear that? And then you didn't really respond to me. So but you were kind of talking to your wife, I think.
Yeah.
We had cell service where we were at. So, but I just let it go because it was like, he's talking to his wife or whatever. But I thought I heard a bugle that Thursday night whenever we were going to bed, and then that was the last, for me anyway, that was the last bugle that I heard from an elk. And we went down, and at first we took all approaches. First was like, let's just see if we can, I don't know, run and gun or just try to run into something. And I mean, we would like go. We'd be on a mission to get to a certain place, then we would like stop and wait forever or whatever. So it wasn't quite run and gun, but we we didn't like do a lot of cow calling or bugling or anything. And then whenever nothing's popping up, we would start the cow calling and see if we could get anything to go. And I don't know, that cow calling might have helped with that elk that you bumped into or that we bumped into, but yeah. I didn't see. Because we were cow calling like right before that, not too long before that. So
right,
makes me kind of wonder on that.
True, I don't know for sure. Yeah, and so then we, like Eric said, we went back in that area 2 days later where we saw the bull. So Saturday morning we got up and went down this other draw and did a nice little hike and set up on this ridge and try to watch, call a little bit and set for a minute, and nothing was popping. So we decided to take another route and head back up to the truck. And Eric was on the lead this time as we're heading out, and we're like walking down kind of, well, I guess not, there was not like a canyon bottom, I guess. Yeah. Following the creek out. And Eric stops to look up the canyon, and behind him a cow jumps out of nowhere, out of like this creek bottom.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. Like, she just jumped out. Yeah. And I mean, I'm looking. I mean, I was joking about it, but I'm like, just my luck. I look up the canyon, and there's an elk right behind me, and
yeah, and I didn't see her till she moved, and I got looking at that embankment, like after we left, and it was kind of a deep embankment. I bet she was bedded up against, the embankment.
We might have never seen her.
We probably never would have seen her if she didn't run off.
We were seeing a lot of bear sign in that area too. Yeah. There for a while. So I was kind of halfway bear hunting a little bit. I got a bear tag for the archery season too. So I'm carrying both elk and bear. So I started seeing some bear signs. So a part of me was kind of looking for bear at that point because I was seeing more of that than I was elk sign. Right. So I was kind of, I was looking for both obviously, but but because I was seeing more bear sign, I was like, oh, there might be a bear in this area. And obviously never jumped the bear, but then that cow jumped out. So then I got excited. I was like, well, maybe we'll jump her again, but she was gone. We never did see her again. And at this point, so the weekend before, whenever I was by myself, I don't think we've done a podcast since we started hunting, right? So the weekend before I was by myself, I jumped another cow elk, and I have an either sex tag. And there was probably a 20-second window in all this. I knocked my arrow, but I already was telling myself, I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna do it. I want to get a bull. I want to go for a bull elk, and so I let her. I let her go, and there was probably in the amount of time that I jumped her, and she was there was like a 5-second window where I had a really good shot if I wanted to take it, and I chose not to. And as soon as that experience was over, I was like, I'm probably going to regret that. And the kind of weekend that we had last weekend, I kind of regret it. But I was like, it's so early in the season.
Right.
I want my bull. I want to try for a bull.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it before on the podcast. Like, I'll still do it, but I don't know. I don't really like taking the cows out of the herd,
right,
or even the does. Last year I had a doe tag and filled it, and I did it. My feelings on that is they're handing them out. So if they're handing them out, there's that's how they want to manage the herd and everything. So I mean, I don't feel that bad, but yeah, if I have a choice, I'd rather do my conservation duty and go for the bucks and the
right.
bulls. So
yeah,
but yeah, so that was really the biggest action that I got into the weekend before, and I was by myself that weekend. Joe had other things going on, so we couldn't hunt together that weekend, and so that was really the biggest highlight of mine is I did jump that cow, and again though everything was pretty quiet though as far, and I mean I know that's kind of what they say is early in the season there's not a lot of bugles or whatnot, but
right.
I've heard them before though, early.
Yeah.
Maybe this year was a little too hot, and that's why we weren't hearing nothing. But the good bugling time is, I think, coming pretty soon. So we should be. I mean, it should get a little bit better as far as that goes. And I don't know. I still have high hopes, but I know, kind of working through this whole weekend. Like, I think me and Joe and I were a little frustrated at everything going on, but I just kept trying to remind myself and kind of saying it to you too, like, dude, we're working hard. We're not doing anything wrong. We're just it's just not happening for us. So,
right.
Trying to keep our spirits up as much as I could. So, or, I wasn't trying to make a big deal about it, but I could feel the frustration between both of us. And I was like, dude, we're working hard, man. We're doing the right stuff. Like, we're doing everything we can. And so, but on the flip side of that, though, the flip side. So in between all this, we've kind of kept it all about elk.
Yeah.
But in between all this, so I guess it would have been Saturday night. Probably not really a detail that really matters to you guys, but the second day of our hunt, it's the end of the day. We jump in the truck and we're, kind of beating our head and like, what the heck? Joe's like, dude, bear, right in the middle of the road. And so we stop, and the bear's kind of hesitant too. He doesn't know which way to go. He doesn't know whether to go up or down. And but he's limping, and we notice him limping. So our first thought, I have a bear tag, so I'm like, what's my play here? I grabbed my bow anyway. My first initial point, I didn't know if I was even gonna go for it or not. The bear was limping, and me and Joe were sitting there thinking, man, maybe he got hit already by another hunter. So then I'm thinking in my head at this point, or is there anything you want to add at this point? Okay. So at the very initial start of all this bear chaos, and we're like 30 yards away at this time, maybe 40 max. Matter of fact, I was a little hesitant to do it, but I thought about going up where he went down. But I was like, I don't know if I want to get that close yet. But we thought that the bear was hit by like another hunter or something. We weren't
like
sure.
Actually shot.
Yeah, and and so I'm sitting there feeling real hesitant about even going for this bear because I was like, well, I don't want to shoot another man's bear.
And it felt like there would be like someone coming over the mountain, like tracking the bear.
Right. And so Joe and I both, I think we kept looking up there waiting for somebody to pop out of the woods, and nobody ever popped out. And I had probably a 30-yard shot, and at this time I was still hesitant, and I was like, if and Joe and I were kind of talking back and forth to each other. The bear knows we're there. Like we're not trying to be secretive because the bear knows we're there. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. Like, and long story, well, I'll kind of speed it up a little bit. The bear goes down, gets out of range of my bow, a good 70, 80 yards, I think. And I'm like, you know what? Like, maybe I will try to get it. But there is still a part of me in the back of my head that's like, man, this bear is gimped up. Like,
yeah, right.
I mean, I guess I don't have to tell that part of the story. If I did shoot it or something, I could be like, I got me a bear and leave it at that. But I was like, I kind of feel like I'm getting the handicapped bear.
Right.
You know, I don't know how to explain
low-hanging fruit.
The low-hanging fruit of bears, you know? And I'm like, it doesn't seem fair. The bear was still plenty fast enough, though, because every time I dove down the hill and every time I got a little bit closer, he got twice as far away. So he was limping a little bit, but he
could take off and run every once in a while.
Yep, yeah, exactly. But but whenever I finally decided like I'm gonna go after the bear, I was still hesitant because of that though, because he was limping. But Joe was glassing him and he's like, dude, I don't see blood whatsoever.
Yeah. When the bear finally turned to where I could see like the shoulder or the front shoulder that it was favoring, I couldn't see any matted blood or any wet spots or nothing.
Yeah, so that kind of made me feel a little bit better. So I was like, at this point, I was like, Joe, I think I'm gonna just go after it. If I can get a good shot, I'll go after it and see what happens. And I tried, but he did disappear whenever I was up top. I wish I would have paid a little more attention. I thought that he laid down. It looked like to me, I was like, oh, I think he's laying down there. So I was like, I'm going to go down there and, maybe I can get above him and get a shot off or something. And that's not what happened. There was a little dip down in how the land was. Whenever I got down there, I could see it a little more clearly. And he just dipped down. I thought he laid down, but he like dipped down, then ran off. So I guess that kind of ties up or kind of finishes that night. Is we ended up not getting that bear,
right?
And but it was fun. It was a good time. I got so excited about. I mean, I was like, man, I can't believe I'm gonna get a bear before an elk, and. I really feel like that's kind of another reason why we weren't seeing. I think that's more of a reason why we weren't seeing a lot of elk, more than the other hunters, honestly.
True. Well, I guess the one thing too, we did come across some other. Like we said, come across some other hunters on Saturday, and they shot a cow. They were trying to track her down, and they were saying that there's been that between them and a couple other guys, they've seen 4 bears in that area that we were hunting.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So I really think that might have been part of it too. And then, so the last day that we hunted up in this area, we were hunting all day. We really didn't see much that day, did we?
No.
Like, that was a tough day.
Yeah.
And we did the same thing. We were down there wasn't a lot of scat, but there was a ton of like tracks. I mean, you could tell the elk been walking around down in this area. And we were down in there all day and didn't see much. And end of the day came, so we started making our way out toward camp. And I would say roughly about a mile before camp, cattle started running our way. And I was like, that's either another person trying, coming down towards the end of the day or which he was gonna be bummed out because we were coming,
walking towards him.
Yeah. Or I'm thinking to myself, oh, actually, let me rewind a little bit though. On our way back out, Joe says, I have a feeling we're going to see a bear. And I was like, you're full of it, kind of, I was like, there's no way. We saw yesterday's bear. We probably won't see one tonight. I'm kind of giving the story away, but we were, like I said, about a mile away from camp. And cows started running toward us, and I was like, oh, that's crazy, And kind of in the back of my head, I go, that's either another hunter pushing them or it's a bear. And but we didn't know for sure or anything. We kept walking and took this trail. Or we heard some ruffling. I kind of honestly, at that point, because I didn't see nothing right around the first corner, I was like, I don't know what scared those cows, but it's probably not a bear. But we heard some ruffling in the bushes, and I was like, oh, we're probably scaring another cow or something at first. We go up this trail, and I see this bear looking for Joe and I because he could hear us, but he couldn't see us. So he was, looking for us. And Joe, you never did lay eyes on him, right?
No, never saw it.
He was, sitting down looking for us. It was a really neat sight, actually, how he was, looking and, one kind of, real curious what was down there.
Yeah.
And he was probably a good 80 to 90 yards away. And he stands up on his hind legs and from that view, I was like, man, he's big. I don't know if he was all that big or not, but he looked big. Whenever he stood up on his hind legs, I'm like, man, that's a big bear. And he spotted me, and I made the mistake. I really feel like whenever I saw him looking around and stuff, I should have ducked down,
right?
And just tried to settle him down or something. Maybe make him come closer to try to make a play in some other way. But I was just standing straight up, looking at him, kind of in awe myself. So but hindsight being 2020, I'm like, man, I really wish I would have ducked down and seen what else could have transpired from that. But he saw us, or he saw me whenever he stood on his hind legs, got down on all fours and just booked it. Never looked back. And I don't know, we walked up and I told Joe, I was like, I bet that thing's long gone. And your curiosity got the best of you. You're like, let's just go down there and look.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let's go. And we went down there and didn't really see much sign, nothing. But we tried. We gave it a little bit of an effort. So it was a good hunt. It was a hard hunt. I think that the early season was kind of played a factor, and maybe going back to the elk hunting, I really think that maybe the pressure from other hunters and the bear that's in that area was kind of playing an effect of what's going on.
Right.
And with that, though, Joe, any final thoughts from you? I kind of took the mic and did some storytelling.
Excuse me. Final thoughts is the weather has finally switched. We've got a lot of rain since we were out there and cooled it down quite a bit. And so I'm kind of excited to see what these next couple weekends bring with cooler weather and see if that allows stuff to happen.
Perfect. Well, we're going to do a hard out here, guys, because our camera's about to turn off. So thanks for watching and listening to this episode. Hopefully we can bring some good news before the end of the season.
Yes.
I think we will. I know it's not a lack of trying, and we'll bring you more in the future. Thanks for listening to the Struggling Hunters guys in the old hunting shack, and we'll see you again in the next podcast. Have a good one. Later.
TTFN.